Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hyrule Chronicles, Legend of Zelda Dungeons & Dragons campaign. I am the Game Master ArticulateT. This is episode 117, and with me as always I have Renji Vox being played by Nether.
That's me. Hello, good evening, or whatever time you find yourself listening to this.
I have Hikan Sio being played by Avrdal.
Hello.
I have Zayden Shari being played by Rubber Pirate.
Hello.
And I have Max being played by Keestruth.
Hi.
So, friends, what happened last time?
Last time, after Hikan secured the Ether Medallion from Gorspire, the Storm's Eye make the acquaintance of Hikan's old teacher, Master Gorin. As one of the masters of the monastery, he leads them into the building to get himself, and whoever wants one, a drink. The party shares stories of their adventures with Gorin, until he and the party are called to treat with the Council of Masters of this monastery. Each skilled in their own way of martial arts, they discuss matters with the Storm's Eye about the Twilight Cartel, the Sovereign Hand, and the threat of Nazgrada, along with the possibility of securing the Bombos medallion, despite no leads as to its location. The council then votes on a motion to have the Storm's Eye take one of the medallions with them, and while the masters are divided on the subject, the party is allowed to bring the Ether medallion with them on their journey. After this meeting, they are notified that someone is at the monastery to meet them. Fully armored in ablative dark nut plating, it is Tyrina Gaul, Gerudo paladin and longtime ally to the Storm's Eye, glad to see her old friends once again. They catch up on news from both sides, but Max is not feeling very comfortable as he sneaks away. Renji and Hikan separately find him, with Renji sitting with him in silence for a while before Hikan finds the both of them. It's clear Max is not happy about his friends getting hurt and leaving, which is what happened with Tyrina. They sit together for a while, and this awkward conversation ends when Max just decides on flying away. A monastery initiate tells Zayden, Mara, and Tyrina that the medallion is ready for pickup after removing it from Gorspire's axe. As Zayden goes to pick up the medallion, Tyrina notices that Mara is somewhat distracted. And at Tyrina's suggestion to take her back to Castletown, she tells Tyrina that she's made up her mind to stay with the Storm's Eye, a comment that makes Tyrina quite uncomfortable. And that's where we last ended up, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, we rejoin Zayden specifically, as you are led through the settlement towards the nearby blacksmith, next to the burning forge is a pile of roughly bent metal that's just been discarded. It's, I don't know if the music is playing. Hold on. There we go. Yeah. And you see like the blacksmith himself, just wiping their brow and examining the medallion for what it is. This disc of gold with a lightning bolt as an impression on the front. The initiate comes in and bows somewhat to the blacksmith and says, they're here to pick up the medallion. The blacksmith looks over and says, "Ah, I see." And they stand up and trudge over. And say, you notice that they're holding it in a gloved hand. Might be a bit hot, so reach over and pick up a thick cloth and wrap the whole thing in it and says, "Until it cools down. This is fire resistant, so you should be more than capable of carrying it for the moment."
I don't know. Notice it. Thank you very much. Do you need the cloth back?
Nah, it's fine. We got plenty. Besides, we got plenty of scrap metal here that we can play with as well, so that's all good. Unique stuff. Very useful. But for the moment, if that is your medallion, then it is all yours. Don't know if any of the masters would need to speak with you before you depart. I don't know if you're departing now or if you're departing later. But
Well, I need to at least find my companions.
very well. Well, I won't keep you any longer. If you need anything repaired in the future and you happen to be in town, feel free to come by.
Thank you very much. What's your name?
Sarada.
I'm Zidon. Thank you very much, Sarada.
Pleasure. Bows slightly and then returns to the forge to do some other jobs that he's been assigned, allowing you to return to your companions as you go. With Max's departure for private time, what has Renji and Hikan been doing in the meantime?
Heading back to the
Heading back to the monastery.
Okay. So I would say after a bit of time, you return to the monastery. You head in through some of the paths. It's probably at this point where you bump into Zidon, like just on one of these paths, going in different directions for the moment. I don't know what Max is up to, and how long he's going to be in, like, keeping to himself.
Gonna fly around for a bit and might just happen to walk into the guys without meaning to at some point during the conversation.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you all regroup. Fairly, like, yeah. So Hikan and Renji, you've managed to meet up with Zidon briefly. I didn't know if you wanted to have any conversations between yourselves before Max arrives. Otherwise, as you kind of, depending on where, or like as you're going to return to the others, you bump into Max as well on the road back to the bar that Mara and Tyrina have been left at.
I think Renji did talk with Hikan at least for a bit about Max, and I believe we did that last session, mentioning that Renji was worried about, I think it was something like Renji was worried that Max wasn't looking at things long term, not thinking about what we do after we save the world.
I believe Hikan's response was, "We think that far ahead?"
I mean, I do. Not continuously, but yes.
Hikan's thing was, I'm gonna hide the medallions through them from being able to be found by anyone except the hero, if necessary. And then we joked around about making dungeons. As in, Nether and Alvarance joked around about making dungeons in character.
Yeah. Yeah. If there's, after a bit of time, then you Max, you do bump into them by more or less by accident, but as you eventually you get back to the bar, neither Tyrina nor Mara have really moved from the spot that you left them in. Like as you arrive back, Tyrina looks over and smiles and nods a bit, gives a bit of a wave and says, welcome back. Got everything you need?
Well, we're missing a Max at the moment, so...
I'm right behind you.
Ah,
Max is also keeping his wings hidden from Tyrina again.
Ah,
At least for now.
yeah.
He'll probably forget about it in a few minutes and they'll just kind of drift open a bit.
look, I'll allow this once for comedic effect, but Max cannot sneak up on Renji.
Baron chuckles a bit. Says, okay, well, I don't know whether or not you need to get started on the journey immediately. It won't take too long to get back to Gerudo Fortress, but I also am aware that it is not exactly the start of the day. So if you wanted to rest here for a while, then that's fine. If not, I'll have to start making a move to get all the things prepared to go back. It's a lot of carrying.
I look at my friends with spell slots.
I am good for now.
I have spent my 8th, 7th, and 6th level spell slots, so if we need those...
Still have 6th level. 7th level even.
I do not know what we will run into in the desert.
Rest is always good.
Well, we can get some rest and leave you out of the armor for at least a night. That looks very heavy.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, I will. I'll still have to go to the chariot anyway in order to pick up some other stuff. But for now, I can at the very least drop this off somewhere where I can lay my head. He just like, and just stands, and there's a cacophonous clatter as the armor begins to move. And it's yeah. I don't know if there's any specific spot we are allowed to sleep in or anything.
I'll take you over there, and I'll just take Tyrina to a place where she can get a room or a bed. And on the way is when Hikan goes into the tirade of getting Tyrina caught up to the best of his ability. Like, he's only halfway done since the last time that they talked when they're on the way down to the chariot, so he can help figure stuff out.
Yeah, she listens intently. She is very enthusiastic about the story that you tell, and is very sympathetic of all the troubles that you have been through in order to get to where you are. It is quite the story. She does pause.
6 scars.
Oh, cool. That's yeah. She does pause a moment when you mention being elevated to the status of barons of Hyrule, and she's like, "So what? Do I need to call you like my lord, my lady?"
I don't know. I didn't even know what a baron. I still don't know what a baron is. Renji keeps asking me questions like, "What do I want to do with the land?" And I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not really up for much of that nobility crap, but the sentiment's nice at the very least. I certainly know that Max will probably not care for any form of honorific, so I'll keep it the normal with him.
It's you can call me whatever you like. If it ever does come up, it is there is a style of address. The much honored is how you'd address a baron.
Okay. Fair enough. I'll remember that the next time I'm invited to a high
Or the
society
right
shindig.
honourable lord.
Yeah. But I mean, a barony's nice. It's just a big open space that you can do whatever you want with. That's
Honestly, we've been there once.
I think Tyrina was with us on that one, wasn't she? In Automac?
yeah. She was with
Yeah.
you in Automark. She was grabbed by a wall master and then exploded.
Was that the Wallmaster that exploded on me, or was that something else?
She was
The Armos statue exploded on you.
Yes.
Because we ended up finding her with the Armos statues after she got wall mastered.
Yeah, that's the thing.
But yeah. She says, "Okay, well, gotta admit, not exactly a nice place of history is Ardemark, but
But we're cleaning it up.
any subjects yet?"
Technically, were there people that we sent, like, told to go there outside of Kai? Who's
Hmm.
also a baron?
Kai was also getting workers.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll be sure to come and visit. You can give me the grand tour when it's all done.
Yeah.
As you finish regaling her with your story, she kind of responds in kind. It's like, and she does this like chances are by the time you finish, she's already halfway through like taking off the various plates and putting them in a neat pile by where she's meant to be sleeping. Underneath wearing like a very kind of light and mobile looking set of chainmail. And she explains more or less that there's not much that had differed, or like not much to elaborate on. She got back to the Gerudo Fortress. She then traveled all the way to the Desert Colossus and spent a bunch of time there just relearning spiritualism and what it meant to be a follower of Etheria, just kind of going through the process of starting from scratch again. And while she didn't have an unpleasant time, as she got used to using plate mail and everything, leaving the desert for a little bit in order to kind of keep up with traveling, where she met you guys after the I think it was after you dealt with the Twilight Cartel the first time. And she came back, did more training, fully dedicated herself to the whole Iron Knuckle armor, and then she got your letter, and that's about it. And everyone there was pleasant as far as she explains it, but you can tell that as she explains that story, she missed going on adventures with you guys. She missed the rather novel idea of going out to find bits of lost history to bring back to a very tired but kind looking man, and then like the interesting mix of abilities that everyone had and how it all meshed and everything. It was strictly regimented, as far as she says. And while she doesn't downplay or talk bad about any of her sisters or her teachers or anything, it's clear that she very much missed the time she would have spent with all of you. And as she kind of like finishes setting everything aside and sits down, the horse that was carrying the dragging the chariot has been taken into one of the stables and is being taken care of. The chariot is kept out of sight. She kind of like sits down and heaves a sigh and says, So you haven't actually properly met this Nazgûl Dark guy?
Well,
We have not said words directly to his face. We have seen his face in
very
person.
close.
Huh.
At that time, I believe it considered us not a threat, so he closed a door on our faces.
Huh.
It was
He at least finished his
demeaning.
conversation. So we got all of that, and then he closed the door.
I see. Um,
Not his best move, I think.
I mean, going up against you guys, yeah, I have doubts that it was a wise idea.
Oh,
Well,
by
that
the
in
way.
like the week after we fucked up his champion, so
Mhm.
Nice.
Also, we did something else, and from my bag of holding, I take out my crystallized Twilight curse and turn into a stout.
He just watches you turn into a stone and just.
I start rolling around on the table.
Is that something that Zayden taught you guys, or what?
I'm
oh,
cursed.
You've been. Oh, I see. Oh man, I wonder what I would have turned into. Oh,
Some kind of salamander.
salamander.
I take the brooch of Falcon and I touch it to
Hyena?
Tyrina. What happens?
Nothing.
Damn.
Related to traits that you have as a person.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, Zayden just turned into a bear. It was kind of the least exciting thing for
And
in
then
that
he
aspect.
turned back as if it was nothing.
Yes. Changing shape is not that hard.
Hmm.
Save yourself.
I had terrible difficulty.
Oh, I see. Kind of.
Rolls his eyes in pure martial class.
So let me. So you turn into a stoat.
Yeah.
And you turned into a bear.
Oh, guess what Max turned into?
Kind of peers at Max a bit, squints.
Probably sees the wings at this point.
Uh, I don't know if I should go for the obvious answer or not. Regardless, it's probably really cool. But but I would say, I'd say flat out dragon.
No, I don't think that's not the cursed part.
Oh yeah, you're right. Ah. It thinks a bit, and like now that you've like introduced it like that, it's like, oh okay.
It was a drake.
Ooh. Interesting.
I found a way to use it to. Max is clearly uncomfortable talking about this.
So you kind of like nods.
Be
and
a
says,
bit more dragon-ish.
Oh, I see. You kind of like.
Also, Hikan
talks.
changed into an animal. Trying to change the subject.
Yeah. Kind of like clocks the uncomfortableness and then takes Renji's thing. So, okay. Huh. So points to Hikan, and you were a
Bird.
Bird. Interesting. I would never pegged you for a bird.
Hikan shrugs. Is like, I don't understand magic. I
don't
forgot
know what
what
to
kind of
tell
bird
ya.
it was, to be perfectly honest.
You were a hawk. A raptor.
Hawks, freedom, free spirit, that sort of thing. I think I could see that now.
Cool. Nah, it was flying. Flying was cool.
And she then turns and looks at Mara and says, "And what about you?" And Mara's like, I didn't turn into any. Caught in a different thing." And Tyrina just nods and says, "Okay, alright. Well, that's not... I mean, you're here now, and it's, from the sounds of it, it's been taken care of. So, I mean, sympathetic. Sounds a bit traumatic, I will admit that.
It was confusing and scary at that time.
I don't envy you for going through that experience.
Did
But
you notice any weird weather patterns or sky coloration a while back?
weird weather. Where specifically?
Central Hyrule?
Nothing out of the norm.
Hmm. Fair enough, I wasn't certain how big the area of effect was.
Probably quite a fair distance away, come to think of it.
Yeah.
Probably wouldn't have been able to see it immediately from where she was.
I mean, we could see it from the ziggurat, right?
Yeah. There probably would have been, like... Kind of probably shrugged and said, I don't know, bit overcast that day. Odd for the desert, but regardless. Didn't rain, unfortunately.
Oh, that's right. Hold on, and Hikon's gonna run around and get like 6 extra water skins.
Good thinking.
Yeah. Well, far be it from me to keep everybody awake. She kept peering out the nearby window where it is now very much nighttime. After long stories. There's if you wanted to get some rest, by all means be my guest. I need to go ahead and get my 6 hours or so. If you need me in the night, feel free to poke me awake. I'm a light sleeper. It's fine.
Yeah, what's the sleeping situation like here, Hikon?
Barracks.
Fair enough. Care to show us where?
Oh, yeah, Hikon will, after getting the water skins and coming back and recognizing that everyone's getting ready for bed, we'll just kind of go to where some... I think at this point, it's not that they show signs of like newness or anything like that, but these ones definitely have been disused for a while, but upkept type of thing, if that makes sense. So it's kind of like these might be the old barracks or old rooms of monks that might have been sent out on different missions going elsewhere type of thing. Kind of making the best use of it in regards to it.
I will be riding around on Hikon's shoulder for the foreseeable time.
You do eventually find some appropriate beds to be used, and after a brief moment of time, manage to whisk yourselves off to sleep. And of course, all either having only 4 hours worth of sleep because of being Sheikah or having a ring, you all wake up 4 hours later. It's admittedly fairly pleasant, especially considering the previous time that you went to sleep. There's no dreams or nightmares beyond the normal that you would have. You kind of just drift off and feel yourselves relaxing as you go to sleep. As you wake up, you see that Tyrina is still asleep. She doesn't have the ring of expedient rest. At least I don't think she has a ring of expedient rest. So
He does not.
Yeah. So she has to sleep her normal 6 hours as per being a Gerudo.
Did we invent those like just after she left?
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe so.
Oh well, sucks to be her.
Yeah. Yeah. You wake up and much of the other monks who were probably in the barracks or nearby have also woken up to do their things. Others who were on like a different sleeping schedule would then come in and take their rest in turn. But yeah, you have 2 hours.
Was there a time limit to the beast transformation, by the way?
An hour, I think. Pretty certain we can do it twice a day for an hour each.
So, no sleeping as a stoat.
You can go to sleep as a stoat.
Yeah,
Just
but
won't
then
wake up as a stoat.
then you'd wake up like an hour in. That's uncomfortable.
Or you wouldn't, and you might just be really uncomfortable when you do wake up.
Yeah.
I do not want to take that risk.
Some of the positions that I've woken up in, I think I could fall asleep as a stoat and wake up and be perfectly fine.
That's fair. Although, like stoats and other like, what's the word for the collective
Muscle.
species? Mustelids, yes.
Yeah.
They are liquid.
Yep.
Like cats.
Mhm.
Yeah. The cats are more like massive.
Yeah, but they don't give a shit where they sleep.
That's true.
Yeah.
I think Hikan's kind of gonna go around, make sure that there's plenty of rations. There's plenty, like I said, grabbing extra water skins, make sure that we're up on that.
Yeah.
Getting the chariot ready, getting the horse ready, just kind of going through things and making it so that way when Tyrina's ready, we can head on out.
Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't take too long. The war horse that is responsible for pulling the chariot is quite a tame animal, sociable animal too. Doesn't take too long in order for the horse to get acquainted with you and follow where you go. And after a couple of hours, unless there's anything else anybody wishes to do, Tyrina wakes up fully rested, goes through the admittedly like hour-long, like if no one helps her, goes through the hour-long process of putting the iron knuckle armor back on, and
I think the amount that Mass would have to be told what to do would make it take longer. So probably doesn't want my help.
Fine. But yeah, eventually just like hops back onto the chariot, and like turns awkwardly and says, "Okay, it's a little dark out, but we ready to go?"
Yes.
Okay. Then let's get to it. And with a light jerk of the reins, Warhorse pulls forward and keeps pace with all of you as you walk along, making sure to head west along the edge of the cliffs and mountains. On your right, as you look out, you can see the rolling plains of Western Hyrule. The Civil War still going on. You can't see any plumes of smoke, thankfully, so no major changes have happened to the war itself. But eventually, but yeah, you keep a decent pace as you carry around, and Tyrina just keeps kind of like going through basic instruction. Not even like in a condescending fashion, literally just a case of like, okay, so couple things, of course. It's a scary time, as it can always be. I mean, the key entrance to the desert is right in front of the war that's going on, so people are going to be a bit antsy. So I know this might seem a little unfortunate, but if you let myself do most of the introductions and talking and everything, I mean, no one there is going to be terribly out of sorts. Although she's saying all this with a raised voice to kind of get over the clatter of the armor. It says, like, I won't stop you from explaining why you're there. That's kind of important. But I need to make sure that I'm introducing you and everything, just in case. There's... And she kind of like takes a moment to think about how things are worded, and says the key reason that this, as you probably are aware, that this may be a problem is that the majority of you are male presenting. And there's a lot of cultural stuff that goes with this, so I mean things shouldn't be too bad. Just, yeah.
I don't have my earcuff of disguise at the moment, but I can turn into a stoat for a short time.
While I understand the want to sit there and do that, I think that being honest with these people will put us better in their good graces in case something does happen.
There is that.
Yeah. I mean,
Max is gonna walk in there with this natural 25 intimidation and then find that a lot of them are into that. Oh no.
Maps, you're gonna get so many marriage proposals.
Mission failed successfully.
Oh no.
Walk in intimidating. Oh, Savak.
Max just like, what is happening? I don't understand.
Oh dear.
What do these words mean?
They mean hello in a very flirtatious way, says it.
Oh no.
It's fine. There's just the key things to remember is that when it comes down to it, if there are any places that anyone tells you not to go into, you don't go there.
But those are the most interesting places. I'm joking.
As long as no one shoots me, we're fine.
They won't. So long as I'm in front, they won't shoot you. Gerudo aren't really like that. They have people with bows, but most of them prefer to be up close and personal.
That's fine. I'll just win.
Okay. We'll just kind of like as she as you get closer, she turns the horse in order to go down a path between the mountains, and
I don't want to know what happens to an iron knuckle if I use shocking grasp.
Ooh.
But yeah, and as she turns, the ground gives way from this kind of admittedly sparse grass to something a bit drier, and eventually just becomes a standard dirt road with very little vegetation. And you progress onwards to through the valley.
Yes.
And you can see either side of you the towering brown rocks of the cliff faces and everything. Oddly enough, despite the fact that you literally just stepped from one area like mere feet ago, you can already feel the temperature begin to rise. The sky above you is this unbroken blue, as it is now kind of mid-morning by the time you reach here. And as you progress onwards, you can see various bits and pieces of like broken down carts, or occasionally as you go by, there's a trio of Gerudo women who are just resting as they walk, and as they see your procession led by Tyrina, they immediately stop their conversation and look and watch and wait, and then
get to gossiping about us.
as you begin to move past, they turn back to the conversation they had with each other.
Hikan says salvage as they pass, but it doesn't make a difference because everyone can understand what I mean anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. As eventually, as you progress onwards, you do find yourselves coming to a split in the mountain range, crossing over a deep ravine. Is a singular wood and rope bridge, with a path that leads further between the mountains. The bridge itself is fairly sturdy. You second guess a little bit as to whether or not it can support the weight of a warhorse chariot in Tyrina's armor and Tyrina, but she got here on the same thing, so it's possible that it's sturdy enough. As she gets to the actual bridge, at the just in front of it, you see a pair of Gerudo women with light, comfortable clothes for the climate, and a pair of glaives standing ready. One of them steps forward and approaches Tyrina and starts speaking Gerudo, which only I don't know. So I know Hikan can understand everybody. I forget if Renji has Gerudo.
I do not have Gerudo.
You don't have Gerudo.
I started with Gerudo, so I'd be able to understand them regardless, but...
Okay. Does Zayden have Gerudo?
No.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, so only Hikan can really understand this conversation. As one of the guard women says, "Welcome back, sister. Might I ask exactly why you're bringing Vo here?" And Tyrina just nods and says, "They wish access to the desert. I wanted to let them through and see if they can speak with General Ortania to see whether or not there's any possibility that they can. It's a very important request." The guard just kind of like changes her stance a bit to be a bit more indignant and says, "It's a very bold request. Are you sure she'll take it?" "If I can be convincing enough." "Well, you may try. get across the bridge. We'll ask our questions, and then you can move on. And Tyrina nods, and begins moving across the bridge. And as you begin to move to follow her, the two Gerudo women like move their glaives as an X across the passage. And says, "Hold a moment," says one of them, and says, "We just need to ask a few questions first before you proceed. Besides, it's a heavy war-horse and chariot. You don't want to be on the bridge at the same time as it. It'll only take a moment." She says this in common.
Very well.
Normally, it is out of the ordinary for a Vo to be making their way into the Gerudo Fortress, or even the desert as a whole, especially with circumstances as they are. First, to clarify, what brings you to our home?
I am not able to speak your language, so I'm not certain what you said to.
Oh no, she's saying all this in common.
I know. So I'm not certain what you spoke with our friend Tyrina about. However, we are of the Storm's Eye. We serve the royal family of Hyrule, and we have reason to travel into the desert to find a specific tower where we may acquire information. This is the purpose for which we are traveling with Tyrina here.
I'll pull out a drawing of the tower. It's this one, and I'll show it to them.
He leans forward to consider the drawing. Does not ring a bell. How about you? She says to the other guard, who looks over and says, "Can't seem to remember it. So if you're certain it's there, the desert is big. If you're certain it's there, then you don't exactly have proof to refute that."
We also do not have information or proof that that tower was there beforehand.
I see. Give me a persuasion check.
Excellent.
Mm-hmm.
That is only a 22.
Okay.
This is bullshit.
I was going to say, if this was a different system, I would agree it is only a 22, but for now...
Showing up your rolling Pathfinder numbers.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. But yeah.
Look, I only rolled a 7. That's what I mean.
Okay, well, if that's the case, he looks back and Tyrina has now crossed the bridge. Says, "Bit of advice. Keep with her, and if you can't find her, keep with her." And she nods to Mara. And says, "In any circumstances, only in any other circumstance, you would speak when spoken to. Remember, this is a very delicate matter that you're attempting to progress on. It would be ill-advised to act out of turn. But for the moment, welcome, Storm's Eye, to Gerudo Fortress." He gestures for you to progress across the bridge.
Mark starts walking as soon as the glaives are up.
Thank you. And Hikan follows.
And walk along.
Yeah.
Titan will ask if either of them would like a good berry.
No, thank
Excellent.
you.
And then he will follow.
Here, a berry that may or may not possibly poison you.
As you progress across the bridge, you can look either side of it and see how deep the ravine goes. It's just this, it's almost like a blade has cut through the very earth and cut it down to its core. You can see a dry bed at the bottom, where a river probably once ran.
And below, just above that dry bed is a plane that immediately sends us back and takes a heart.
Yep.
Yep.
But yeah, you progress across the bridge, rejoining Tyrina, and she resumes the trot along through the rest of the valley, to eventually find yourselves at Gerudo Fortress. This fortress is hewn into the very stonework around it. The buildings that you can see are few, but you imagine that so close to the cliff edge that it's possible that a lot of these rooms and tunnels run into the mountainside itself. You see a great number of Gerudo soldiers, either on horseback or on foot, just keeping to a strict regimen. The first few that see you immediately stop and stand to attention, ready to, like, with weapons braced. Not as necessarily like we're going to immediately cut you down, sort of like, strangers, let's see what happens.
Prepare for whatever.
Yeah. But yeah, you but as you progress inwards, you see one of the Gerudo, who seems to be dressed a bit more elaborately, approaches Tyrina and says, "Stop! I ask what exactly it is you're doing, Paladin." Tyrina says, "I'm here to take them to the General. They have a request to enter the desert." There's a pause. And she, like, narrows her eyes at Tyrina. It's like, "What fools do you take us for? Enter the desert? Vo? In the desert? Are you..." And Tyrina will say, "Please, it is important for the safety of everything. I can assure you, I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't important."
I'd like to try and catch Tyrina's eye.
Sure. He kind of, like, glances to you.
As like, permission to speak?
Granted.
I smile and look over at these other Gerudo. And I say, "Thank you, Tyrina, for allowing me to speak." Turning to the others, I say, "It is true. We have a mission to go into the desert. And I find it very odd that our friend here is being talked to that way."
The Gerudo woman narrows her eyes at you, Renji, and says she's being talked to that way because regardless of rank or status, which I outrank her, she has decided to bring outsiders into our fortress and suggest that they can go into the desert. That is why she's being talked to that way.
That is not yet decided. That is why we are going to the General.
She tilts her head slightly and says, "Are you to presume? Am I to presume that you would know our customs better than I?"
I do not mean to imply that. I merely wish to enlighten you about the situation that we find ourselves in. We are not under the impression that we go into the desert, but it is what we hope to do. And as far as I am aware in this situation, the General's permission is what we need for that. Am I wrong? I apologize if I am working with misgivings and ill information.
Tyrina will pipe in and say, if we could just speak to the General, please. And we'll kind of consider it. Give me a persuasion with advantage.
With advantage?
Because he can't speak, Max is just quietly growling his frustration.
Well.
Oh,
That
man.
is a 35 for our podcast listeners.
Yeah, so with a
And a
35,
natural 20.
yeah, you just kind of like frown slightly. The veil that she wears over the lower half of her face being like covering the snarl. Fine. Dismount your chariot and follow me.
I can smell better than her.
The like Tyrina just kind of like slumps a bit, like, hops off the chariot.
I understand that I'm making things difficult for her. I've been giving a set of rules, and Renji is going to try and exploit them as best he can.
And with a slow tromp up the slope towards one of the buildings, with all of you in tow, the remaining Gerudo keep their eye on you. Like it's a mixture of curiosity and caution, almost silent as each of them just watch you intently.
I'll give them my best glares.
Wonderful.
Only the best.
Yeah. But eventually.
So I'm imagining just for the scene, right?
Mhm.
We have Tyrina, because Renji started speaking up. Right behind Tyrina, we have Renji. To the left of Renji, we have Hikan, who's being polite, smiling, and waving. And then on the other side, on the right hand, is you have Max glaring on the other end. Poseidon taking up the rear. Poseidon marching up the rear.
Politeness and intimidation. And also old man energy.
Anybody want a Werther's original?
They're very flavored.
Oh dear.
I don't even know where I got them from. They just started appearing in my pockets.
Yeah. You are led into the fortress proper. The bright light from the outside immediately cut away into these dark corridors. Significantly cooler in here than it was outside. But as you kind of progress onwards and inwards, you see more rooms with Gerudo in them. You see like training areas where they practice with their weapons, storage rooms, mess halls. It's a proper military outfit here in these maze-like tunnels. But eventually, you find your way inside to this area, to this larger area, in the center of which appears to be a this big table with a massive map on it, with all these different like little wooden figures. Excuse me.
Right.
And like the things are holding it on in place, and you see a number of Gerudo in there kind of pondering over it. At the very head of this table appears to be an older woman who is broad-shouldered, wearing a few kind of like metal guards like on the shoulder and the forearm, in addition to something light and comfortable, something adaptable for the hot weather on the outside. And as you like, there's no way to stealthily enter with Tyrina in tow. So as the sound gets closer, they all kind of look up, and they see Tyrina come in, and then quickly behind her are several Vo. And there's just a silence falls over the room. The woman who led you here says, General Ortania, we have a very unusual request for you. And the woman at the head of the table just nods slightly and gestures a hand, and everyone that isn't her and you guys leaves the room. The general kind of stares a little bit with a very tired expression. Says, so, what exactly is the request that I receive from a group of Vo? And Tyrina like looks to a lot of you and says, "You best explain."
I will take us one step forward. Kneel on one knee. I say, it is an honor to speak before you, General Ortania. My name is Renji Vox. I am with the Storm's Eye, and I motion to the rest of us. We are here.
Out of character, might want to mention that we're barons too.
That's a fair point. We are here as servants of the King of Hyrule, as well as we are barons of the Kingdom of Hyrule. And we have come here to seek permission to enter the Gerudo Desert. There is a tower within it that we seek, which will aid us in our mission to defend this continent. I specifically say this continent rather than the kingdom.
I pull out the paper again. If we weren't certain, we wouldn't try, because we know that this is a protected place. We get that. Kind of look at the Sheikah eye and whatnot. I presume a high-ranking Gerudo knows what Sheikah are.
Yeah.
Like the Sheikah eye is very prominently displayed upon my breastplate as well. So, yeah, I'm not hiding that at all.
Kind of like...
But I will hand, if I cannot approach, I'll hand it to Tyrina to show her the image myself.
Hands Tyrina, at which point the general kind of very slowly circles the big table in order to get to you.
Is she also in iron knuckle armor?
She's not. She's got like she has the kind of very very light clothing of the Gerudo, but she's wearing like a breastplate and shoulder guards and braces over the top of that.
Gotcha.
As she gets closer, you can see like
Business
the evidence.
casual.
Yeah, business casual. She she's got a series of like as she gets closer, and you can see in the firelight, she has a series of scars all across her face and her arms and everything. This woman has seen a lot of battle, and she like leans forward and peers at the picture, and ruminates on it. Like looks at the things in the background, then turns and looks to the map, which you can see now is a very detailed map of the desert, or at least what you can assume to be the desert. And she thinks for a moment and says, "And you are certain of its presence within the desert here?"
We are acting
Yeah.
on information that we deem to be highly credible, yes.
They're given the information by the guy currently in it.
Turns and raises a brow at that. There is someone dwelling in the desert in a tower of this name. We would have known, surely.
So he said.
On
We
shrugs.
also, we are unaware how long this tower has been here, and given the nature of communication with this person, it is a possibility that it may have merely appeared there.
Or it was there forever ago. There's all sorts of things. It's tough to explain. We've been through a lot.
Magic.
Right. She moves back to the head of the table, like leans on it a bit. Says, "You understand that this puts me in a very delicate and difficult position. Both
I certainly understand.
in a normal sense. It means that our tactics have to change. Things can teleport into the desert willy-nilly. We are aware that there are those who attempt to fly over the walls, and we try our best to maintain those, but teleportation, that's new."
Max just glances to the side as if to go, shit, I should have just tried to fly.
The other problem is the fact that if you are barons, then regardless of your skill of arm and the efforts that you have made in your previous works, if a high-ranking noble, much less 5 of them, come to harm or even death within our territory, that could mean a lot of negative things on our already tenuous relationship with the Kingdom of Hyrule. One that I am unsure as to whether or not I can take that risk.
I do not mean to downplay the risk that you must deal with for these decisions, but I would certainly wish to... what is the word?
We blew up an
Highlights.
entire zombie horde attack in Sarkoza a few days ago. We'll be fine.
Renji smiles at that. That is true. We are quite capable of handling ourselves.
But I doubt that you have the prescience of mind in order to actively look into the future. What
We
if
do
you
not
find
have
something
that
that
ability.
is beyond your capability?
However, there
possibilities
is something
If
that,
we sit around talking about what ifs forever, nothing will get done.
as my colleague says, time is of the essence. But I also wish to highlight that if you allow us passage into the desert and we return with our mission, successful or unsuccessful, you have done us as a group a great favor. and that will not go unrewarded. It will be obvious to each and every one within the royal court that you have helped the royal family.
Allow me to be clear on one particular thing. I have little care of what your royalty thinks of it. I do not doubt that you are good people or wanting to do good things, and I thank you for whatever it is that you have done. After all, it is not every day that a paladin of paladin of Etheria could be convinced to see the good in people as much as this one has. My concern is for the safety of my people.
I understand. May I ask a question? Have you been dealing with monsters lately?
More so than normal.
Renji will just nod.
How about undead?
Very recently, yes.
There is a force behind this. I'm uncertain if you've heard of the name of a group called the Sovereign Hand.
Grimaces slightly. Hearing familiar,
We seek to cut that organization off at the head. They are being led by a powerful being known as Nazgrada, which is the one we are sworn to defeat.
Just want to verify a couple of things while my compatriots are talking. Nazgrada looks like the Death Sword from Arbiter's Grounds, right?
Yeah.
And that was the same figure that we saw in the vision with Tyrina back in the Firevine Forest.
Yeah.
I will ask if Tyrina has shared with the general her vision. Just kind of off to the side while they're talking.
General? No. My sister's at the Colossus, yes. Not the general.
Okay.
As she contemplates Renji's words, from down a different corridor that goes into a room, you hear a very distant, "How about a trade?" Very young voice. As
Oh no.
turns her attention to the side, and entering in through one of the corridors appears to be a very old woman, very old Gerudo woman holding onto like a staff, ancient, and behind her appears to be a young boy with the same skin color as the Gerudo, same hair color, same general features, bright amber eyes, who wanders into the room. The moment he makes his presence known, both Tyrina and the general immediately, as best as Tyrina can, bow.
Ash just kind of slowly now goes, important, okay.
Yeah, man kind of like looks around and then waves a hand lightly, and the general, both General and Tyrina stand up to attention and say, Your Majesty, we had not anticipated your presence here. And the young boy, the young king, Ganondorf, nods a bit and looks to you, and with a charismatic smile that is not commonly found on a 12-year-old, looks over and like examines each and every one of you in turn and says, "No, it is perfectly fine. I was hoping to have a bit more of an interesting day away from my studies. It seems we have visitors. Very rare that we have visitors. Hello. It's a pleasure to
Everyone,
meet
is this
all
a
of you."
time where we roll initiative?
Hello.
No.
Okay.
Fate would conspire against us. We would die.
We
I
create a
know.
time paradox.
You create a time paradox.
I don't know what it does in Metal Gear, but it's bad, apparently.
But yeah, he kind of like puts his hands behind his back and kind of like with little care, as much as the intense music is going. Don't worry, it's not a loop. It's difficult to find any. It was difficult to find any music where it is literally Ganondorf's theme, but at a moderate level.
Yeah.
Everything about him is in the minor key.
Yeah, everything about him is in the
nothing
minor
moderate
key.
about Ganondorf.
But it's like you can't have the dun da 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 and then have it not end, like progressively get to ba, ba, da. But yeah, he kind of begins walking over to each and everyone. He, like, regardless of whether or not you've bowed or done anything, he doesn't take notice. He just walks over and like examines each and every one of you. Like Sarah says, very interesting. But yes. I was presenting possibly a trade of some kind. You were looking to enter the desert. Yes, I imagine that's the reason why my general is having such a hard time being able to accept your request.
That is
Yes.
correct. I heard Your Majesty.
Indeed. Ganondorf Dragmire, King of the Gerudo, it is nice to meet you.
It is an honor, King Dragmire.
We very rarely get envoys from the kingdom. I understand as to why things have not exactly been terribly pleasant between us.
It has not. That is an astute observation.
But I imagine that this might actually provide something of an opportunity. It would bolster our survivability and also relations with the kingdom, and I do so wish to do that. There's not much one can do when you're sequestered to the desert like this, and in addition, it wastes time and resources and lives to be constantly at each other's throats, even if things have simmered down a bit while the Civil War happens, of course. And it kind of like eyes 3 out of the 5 of you. There's 3 of you are Sheikah. Interesting. Interesting indeed.
That is
Must
correct.
be a very important mission then. You on orders directly from the king as part of your clan, or are you? Is it a happy coincidence? Happy, I would say, coincidence.
It is.
The answer is yes.
I would say the answer is no.
Well, we're tasked to like do the stuff for the kingdom's purposes, and it is a coincidence that the 3 of us ended up together in this group.
That is fair.
Kind of nods a bit. Says, interesting. And like looks over Mara and says, I can see a few of the royal seals upon you. Looks over to Max. And you are very interesting, and I shall leave it at that.
No, go ahead.
Well, if I must say, you hold quite the stance. It is impressive. I like it. It's very good. Very good indeed. You can enter a room and hold it purely from your pure magnitude of personality alone. It is a very impressive feat that few people alive today or before have ever achieved. I bow to you, sir.
Does he bow?
It's just like a slight bow. Like he doesn't like do an overly dramatic Kafka bow. He just like
Max just looks at him very skeptically and goes, uh-huh.
Hmm. Yes. Yes. And she kind of, like, he goes over into Terry and says, I commend you for finding these people. Very interesting indeed. Good sense of character you have, as always. You must be commended. And will, like, maneuver back around the table until he's on the side of it and peers over the vast map and says, I believe there is a way that you'll be able to aid us in some way, shape, or form. It won't allow you to enter the desert immediately, but it will not take you too long, I imagine, and it will go a great way to aid in relations between our two peoples. In fact, if you accomplish it, I have no doubt that in any further battles that may come, which, from the sounds of it, may be fairly soon, if what you say about this sovereign hand is to be believed, then it will serve as an example as to why my people will be more than happy to rally behind your banner. If you do this for us, then you have free access to the desert unimpeded.
Maybe no specifics?
He nods slightly, and then points to a part of the map where, when you analyze it, is basically just a little ways west, and a tiny bit north from Gerudo Fortress. It's somewhere within the mountain ranges, and says,
There-ish.
yeah. It says, here lies an ancient building, an ancient font, as it were. From what my teachers have told me, he says, glancing to the two old crones who are now in the room. They're identical and keeping a very close eye on everything. And it says, it was an ancient building built for some old god, possibly. We don't know the particulars, but it used to produce bountiful amounts of clean water from a subterranean spring. If you passed over the valley, it was the river that cut the mountain as you see it. Unfortunately, a long time before I was born, it was turned off. And coming across any clean source of water nowadays is actually rather difficult. I would like it, perhaps, if you were to be able to head to that font and turn it back on. The reason why I am sending you, of course, is not going to be without any form of danger. We have sent a number of individuals beforehand, and their expeditions have failed. Either they came back with heavy wounds, and speaking of some traps or creatures, and, well, the rest didn't come back at all.
Did they give any details on the actual creatures?
A mixture. They said something about abominations. Others have said something about constructs of a kind.
Right. I glance over at the others, see what they're thinking about it.
It's quite obvious that Max hasn't been listening all that much, because he's just staring at Ganondorf going, is this kid a threat? For some reason he feels like a threat.
It's taken.
You have 20-year future vision.
No, it's not that, it's just the way he's talking and moving around. It's weird.
He does sound menacing. Thank you very much, ArticulateT. But
It's
yeah.
taken every ounce of my willpower as a person to not just go insight check.
Yeah, like
Can I
Renji
make
is
an insight
very
check
much...
just to evaluate like combat ability?
Sure.
I do think if
Like,
you're taking the...
could this kid take me? Could this kid take me in a fight?
With a 20, maybe.
You can tell that his power level is over 9,000.
Oh no.
The fact that you got a 20 on a 12-year-old kid and you think that the kid might be able to take you is pretty fucking terrifying in its own right.
Yeah. You figure that, like, he's still a kid, though. You imagine that probably the biggest threat in the room isn't him, it's the two old women who have entered with him are the problem.
Yeah, I've fought hags before, though.
If you were looking towards Hikan and Hikan's actual response, not the player behind him that's piloting him, you just kind of shrugs and nods. Even if, for whatever reason, which I don't see why I would, even though he's being played menacingly, he's being very honest and upfront. It's getting clean water to people. It's helping people.
Oh yeah, like the mission part. That doesn't really sound like we are helping like a nefarious purpose. That very much sounds like that's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's
the
that's
person.
it's just kind of where he's at. It's a kid king.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That grows up to have the voice of Matthew Mercer.
Yeah. Oh dear.
As portrayed in There Will Be Brawl.
Yeah. Specifically that, not Tis the
Specifically
Kingdom.
that
That one
one.
in particular.
No. I want this to be very clear.
Yeah.
It is the one with the psychopathic Kirby.
Yeah. Oh dear.
And I mean, like, yeah. In regards to a lot of things, there, it's tough to get a read on Ganondorf without being meta as shit. So
Yeah. Like,
I mean, like I can, like, if you want to do insight checks on him, then you're more than welcome to do insight checks on him, because he, like,
right.
as said, he's well spoken and confident, and like he
just read us all like books.
Yeah. he's 12. Like,
Yeah.
it makes us feel like we're characters in a story.
I'm not saying that. Like, there is some things that can gleam from it, but it's just kind of like, no, this guy is the literal embodiment of all things evil, or he will become as much.
mm-hmm.
I want to know everything that this guy's thinking, and I don't think we have the time for the insight checks for that.
Yeah.
Every time he opens his mouth, insight check.
Exactly. So it's just playing it simple. The goal is to get in the desert to get to this tower. If I have to go make sure people have clean water to do so, then
no,
I'll
good
do
day.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Seems like a fair price to me.
I'm just sort of here confused as I have my decanter of endless water.
Yeah, but it's like you
Really
have
thinking,
that. You have that
Did
for
they
you.
steal this from this place? Is that what's happened? Is that how I got this?
No, we got that from the hag. I think. Was it?
I think I bought it from Uriel, but
Oh, okay.
did he make it or did he just acquire it at one point?
That's the question you should ask Uriel.
Uriel, you dealing in stolen goods?
Yes, because technically we've stolen goods and sold them to Uriel.
I can't believe we've done crimes.
Yeah.
No, there are laws concerning loot acquired in dungeons.
Actually, a different question I suppose I would, in character would want to ask is, how long ago did the river stop flowing?
He says, checking his note. Well,
Ganondorf just opens up a bag and pulls out his textbook.
Was that his diary? I mean textbook.
From what we can gather from notes, roughly 150 years ago. At first, we didn't know why the river had stopped flowing. We thought it was simply a rock slide that had gotten in the way, and we did find a few, at least from the reports that had been provided to me. But after a while, we found this building, reasoned it was some old temple, and realized what the purpose was while trying to explore it. And well, that's when the problems started. We couldn't, in the process, from what I've gleaned, in the process of navigating the dangers of the building, we have also had trouble trying to figure out how to get the water to flow. It's not as simple as one would hope.
Okay.
Guess I have to figure it out then.
Indeed. And while you do that, we shall make sure that preparations are made for you to cross the desert. I appreciate you probably have your own supplies, but it wouldn't be terribly out of place for you to have any more.
We certainly appreciate that.
He nods. Says, well, that's the case, says Tyrina. If, in fact, actually, he proceeds over to one of the walls where there is like scrolls everywhere, and begins perusing them. And eventually, General Ortania moves over and finds one of the ones that he's probably looking for, hands it to the king. He says, oh, thank you, General. And heads back over to Tyrina and hands her the scroll and says, this should be a map of the area. You should be able to navigate them appropriately. Make sure that you are all careful. The Geldmen have been acting up recently, and as much as I can appreciate that you all have your capabilities to fight them off, sand people are quite tricky to deal with on most days.
Could you tell us more about these beings?
Not much else to tell. Elemental creatures, roughly twice the size of a man. They have an amorphous form. They are quite literally made of sand. They like to be ambush predators, as it were.
Good to know.
Yes.
I'm certain we won't be running into them because this is based off of Ocarina of Time, and they do not exist there.
Neither do Lionel's, and you've like encountered one or two of them.
Oh no! Foil my logic!
Oh, or the sharks.
Yep.
Can't remember their name.
That's true. No, I was just making a joke.
All right.
Okay. So Tyrina will bow. Thank you, Your Majesty. So, of course. Safe
I
travels.
will follow her lead.
We'll hopefully see you soon. And Tyrina will turn and lead you guys back out of the temple, out of the fortress. Clunk, clunk, clunk. After getting outside into the hot air, Tyrina just.
He's weird. I don't like it. He's weird.
I prefer your kings and queens. They conduct themselves like kings and queens should.
I wasn't aware the Gerudo had a king at this time.
Once every 100 years. First male born, all that jazz.
I am familiar with that tale, but I would have expected that announcing they have a king would be a public affair, even beyond their region.
Not always, but he is 12. As confident as he conducts himself, he's still a kid.
That does make sense.
All official public-facing leadership aspects are dealt with by the general, who will succeed her position after he's old enough.
Yeah. We should probably get the supplies and get going then.
Fair point. So we'll have to
Good
deal
point.
with elementals, abominations, and constructs.
Do you know where I could get a pair of those pants? And I just kind of like point to a random Gerudo pants. The big poofy, breathable pants. It is hot.
That is fair. I am not faring too well in my armor.
I
as it
mean,
is.
the last time that we got a change of clothes was when we went up to Snowhead. So
We can.
I think I had one sooner than that because of other issues.
Yeah, you can
that's
occasionally
fair.
see me removing like a
But my-
sweat patch.
Mine are not built for heat.
There are a few places that we can go. Let's have a look. And she leads you to a series of like stalls and everything. It's because it's technically a military base. There isn't really like a marketplace within Gerudo Fortress, but you see that there's like a tailor who's sitting down. She looks up and says, "Oh, hello. Well, isn't this interesting? Several foe. You've hit the jackpot." And Tyrina just gives a glare and is like, "Not that. We need to get some clothes for these fellas because they are not suited for desert climbs." It's been a while since I've made any Voe clothing. Give me a second. And
Out of character,
yeah.
I think you'd make a lot of people very happy. I'll leave it at that.
What was that?
I think some of our listeners would appreciate certain characters in Vi attire. I have this on good authority.
If you give Hikan clothes, he doesn't care. He will wear them.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I have to look.
Gender
at
norms are bullshit.
Yep. So as the tailor kind of goes around and like marches around stuff, and it's like, I can make something off on the fly if you would like, but I don't seem to. But if you're comfortable with any of this, feel free to have a browse. Let me know if anything fits. I can adjust it, and if there's anything you would like to be wearing in particular, let me know. We can see if we can do any color matching stuff.
I think
I don't have anything
Renji would be
specifically
looking.
made for Voe. The only things I have recently are for the king, and none of you are his size.
Don't mind me just making this in Hero Pod.
Do share. But I think Renji would be looking for something that he could wear as like currently he has a red tunic underneath his armor. And I think he would be looking for something similar that would breathe a little better.
Okay. Let's. So the amount of stock that this place has varies slightly. You like a bulk of what they have here, because this is more or less a military base. There aren't really any outfits that would be suited for what would be the equivalent of Vi adolescents. Like you are Sheikah, so you are fairly tall, but you're not as broadly built. And this goes doubly so for Max. But as Taylor says, they are more than happy to do some adjusting. It just might take some time. And there's a wide variety of things that you can get. If you want specifically Voe style clothing, then she will do her best to adjust what Vi clothes she has to accommodate for that. However, if you are not fussed, then she will provide you with like a set outfit of your choice to then be adjusted to your appropriate size. Mara and Tyrina, neither of them seem to like Tyrina, because she's already wearing armor. Like it's a foregone conclusion that she's in a literal metal tent. But with Mara, she decides to stick with what she has at the moment. She says that she doesn't feel terribly out of sorts, and from the looks of it, she doesn't seem to be suffering from the weather too much.
Ah, another enchanted ring, I see.
She does have 2 on her finger.
So Hikan is literally just looking for a pair of pants. He's gonna take the cloak of protection that he's got and just use that as a sash at the waist.
Okay.
It's just like, I will survive with everything else that I got. I don't need anything fancy.
Like, the only thing Max actually needs to wear is the gauntlet.
Yeah.
I do have the braces of defense, but that's a different thing. So.
I think Renji will go for like the full Gerudo outfits in red.
Nice.
Trying to find shoes.
I made sure to have it tailored to his measurements.
Masha says, just give me whatever's good for the desert. I don't really know.
Yeah, she offers you like effectively just a series of like nice big baggy trousers, slippers, which have kind of a wide base at the ball of the foot. It's so that you don't like sink into sand because the shoe is too thin. There's like either a veil or a turban or any other kind of cloth that you can put over your head, just for the sake of keeping the sun out of your eyes. All of it is nice and breathable. All of it is light as a feather. And it's also nice and bright, so it reflects a lot of the sunlight as opposed to absorbing it.
Very light up the sun.
The tailor says, "That's good enough for the day, but if you're here overnight, it's going to get immediately cold. Is the clothing that you've got going to be suitable for that too?"
I do have this cloak.
We do have cold. We do have clothes for the cold.
That is also true.
That's good. And she kind of like taps her chin a bit and looks to Tyrina, and Tyrina just like rolls her eyes and says, "Put it on my tab." He's like,
No, we can pay for this.
okay, very well. Well, looking at the assortment, I'm going to say that this runs at a total of 100 gold pieces, please.
I would like to make a performance check.
We can all chip in.
As I go, 100 gold pieces. And then I'll put down 10 platinum pieces.
You almost had me worried there for a sec, and just kind of like scoops it up.
I pay what I'm owed.
Well, enjoy your new fashion. I certainly hope that you find it comfortable, and if you have any tears or problems, just come back to me, okay?
Is there a place where we can change?
There's like she kind of point to a tent and says, "That one's usually empty. Make sure you not knock. It's just see if anybody's in there first."
I'll clear my throat. And it'll take as long as it needs to for Renji to doff and don his armor. Doesn't say it in the half-plate description.
Medium armor is
It's
usually
a
like
general medium armor.
yeah, usually like
is
a
like a
minute to
minute.
doff, and then something similar to don.
Let's see. Armor and shields. Donning and doffing. Taking it off 1 minute, then I'll put on the new clothes and it'll be 5 minutes. So I'll be back in 10 minutes. Wearing obviously like non-Gerudo armor. But the clothing underneath is very much what they are wearing here, including the veil.
Nice.
And given that I designed Renji as a pretty boy, there might be some confusion now.
That's fine. Yeah. You spend some time.
And then Max comes out showing a lot more scale than he usually does. Just like feels weird.
Yeah. You each spend some time getting changed into more appropriate clothes, feeling the consequences of the weather a little less now, and after a while, Tyrina just kind of gives like an approving nod. It's like, well, I'll pull it off tremendously.
I appreciate that.
Right. That out of the way, I think it's about
I
time
think the
we go.
contrast of the very minimal Sheikah clothes and the big iron gauntlet is very funny on Max.
Yeah. But yeah, she kind of gives a nod and says, "All right, everyone, let's go take care of this real quick, shall we?" As she begins to lead you out of Gerudo Fortress towards a less traveled path that heads further into the Gerudo mountain range, and that is where we will end the session for now. Thank you everybody for listening / watching. I have been ArticulateT. As always, I have had Renji Vox being played by Nether.
That's me. We're cute now.
I have had Hikan Sio being played by Avrdal.
Insight check!
I have had Zayden Shari being played by Rubber Pirate.
Don't worry, you were always cute.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
And I have had Max being played by Keystra.
This one Max reveals that he was a twink all along.
I will see you guys next time.
Twinkle,
Take
twinkle,
care now.
Kulu
Bye
Limpa.
bye.
Bye.